Putin, like any modern Russian leader, has control of much of Russia's natural resources. He's a man of many interests, a man who isn't afraid of controversy, and one of his lesser-known ventures gives him access to all wealth in Russia. So, how much does Putin have? Let's dive into the details. Russia and Ukraine have been at war for months. Ukraine is continually bombarded by military threats. Several analysts have warned that the conflict between Russia and Ukraine could trigger World War III. Over 20,000 individuals have fled Ukraine into Poland and other neighboring nations as the situation worsened after the Russian incursion. Russian President Vladimir Putin, in office for over 2 decades, has used his position to alter the country's constitution to consolidate more power for himself. Hence, by the time his current term finishes in 2024, the president would have been in office for about 25 years. Right now, all eyes are on Putin around the globe. He's using the battle with Russia and Ukraine as a platform to demonstrate his global dominance. Putin has always been considered one of the world's most influential figures. President Joe Biden has promised to follow the money, and California Democrat Nancy Pelosi has called Russian President Vladimir Putin a tyrant and probably the richest man in the world. If Russian troops do not immediately stop what the international community has called an invasion, Pelosi said, "We will continue to follow the money." Putin is one of the wealthiest people alive. The ostentatiousness of his mansions is what sparked protests in Russia, as his lavish lifestyle drew widespread condemnation, Pelosi declared. 69-year-old some of Putin's detractors have suggested that the Russian leader is the wealthiest person on the planet. Putin's fortune has made him a media darling, but the identity of the richest is unknown. Putin's detractors claim that the Russian leader owns a fleet of luxury vessels, including 4 boats, a $100 million superyacht, 43 planes, 700 automobiles, 15 helicopters, and a luxury jet with a gold toilet. Once a KGB agent, he first rose to prominence 8 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union when he was elected Prime Minister of Russia in 1999. As Boris Yeltsin resigned the following year, he became the country's president. Due to constitutional restrictions, Putin was unable to run for a third term as president in 2008, thus he appointed then Prime Minister Medvedev to succeed him. He was elected president again 4 years later and is still serving in that capacity now. Instead of being limited to 2 terms in office, as had been the case in 2008, he was able to serve a total of 5 years in office because of a constitutional amendment that was finally ratified in 2020. His modest spending habits reportedly run only to driving a Lada, owning a bachelor flat, and taking home a modest state salary of around $120,000 a year, despite widespread media reports to the contrary. His secret $190 billion fortune makes him 60 times richer than former US President Donald Trump. The Kremlin has consistently denied that the Russian leader owns the $1.4 billion Black Sea seaside palace known as Putin's Country Cottage, although Putin is the recorded owner of 20 such mansions. It features a marble pool adorned with statues of Greek deities. This palace also features a wine cellar, a theater, and a club-like area for pole dancing. Putin, on the other hand, said he didn't own the palace. The richest estimates that Putin spends at least $2 million a year on his team of 40 gardeners and landscapers. The first floor of the palace features a music room, a gym, a dining room with $500,000 in Pozzoli, Italian luxury furnishings, and a $54,000 bar table. 6 bedrooms may sleep up to 12 people and are furnished with fine Italian antiques. More than $100,000 worth of wine and spirits are housed in a bar that leads to a 2-story plush theater. Reports in the media also suggest he owns an additional 19 properties. Putin also owns up lots of exquisite watches and a collection of 700 automobiles and 58 planes and helicopters. Also, he enjoys taking care of unusual animals, such as the tiger he called Boris, which was later released back into the wild on live television in 2015. Bill Browder, a former CEO of Hermitage Capital Management, told the Washington Post that he believes Putin's fortune to be approximately $200 billion. His palace has amenities that are unusual for a private residence. It is still unclear how much money Putin has at his disposal. As of 2017, it was widely reported that Putin had purchased a mansion on Russia's western border, complete with a swimming pool adorned with gold tiles. Putin prefers to go by air in a specially built neoclassical aircraft. Valued at $716 million, this jet was recently featured on news.com.au. Named Flying Kremlin, the Ilyushin Il-9630 Zerpu is essentially the flying office of the President of Russia. The plane can reach speeds of up to 900 kilometers per hour, making it something like a flying fortress. It contains a gym, a bar, and 3 beds, so Putin can keep tabs on the troops even when he's on the road. The plane's high-tech communication technology makes it a mobile command post that can issue orders to ground soldiers in the heat of battle. Putin is often bragging about how lavish his life is. The Russian president reportedly has a $100 million superyacht called Graceful. Sevmash, which produces nuclear submarines for the Russian Navy, designed the vessel, and H2 Yacht's design was responsible for the interior and external design. This superyacht features a helipad, dining room, and bar. A total of 400 bottles of the finest wines in the world may be found on board the superyacht. Below ground, in the basement, the vehicle had been sitting in Germany for some time, but it had already departed the country in preparation for the penalties that would be imposed in response to the attack. In light of Western sanctions, it is no surprise that Russia is one of the world's most sophisticated consumers of gold. Russia's gold reserves were at 1.4 billion pounds in 1995, per Forbes. Putin now has $183 billion in gold reserves. Boris Nemtsov, a political critic, claims that Putin's watch collection is worth $600,000, with a single timepiece being worth approximately $361,000. According to some estimates, Putin has amassed a real estate portfolio worth more than $1.2 billion during the past few years. Putin studied law at Leningrad State University and graduated in 1975, but few people realize that he was a top agent for the legendary Soviet espionage agency, the KGB. He's been in the military for quite some time and has completed several covert operations, and he never stops bragging about his military abilities. Before, he had taken photos while flying the Sea Explorer 3.11 submersible submarine in the Gulf of Finland. He was in charge of finding the sunken Soviet submarine of the SH Chuka class, the SHCH-308. During an interview with a journalist, Putin said, "Forget Europe, I am the world's richest man because I am a collector of human feelings. I consider myself extremely fortunate that the Russian people have twice put their faith in me to govern their country. That's what I consider to be my biggest asset." Though he hasn't made any claims of having any substantial wealth, Putin clearly shows off an extravagant lifestyle. He has countless private mansions, many filled with gold and valuable works of art. He enjoys exotic and expensive food and alcoholic beverages. He owns several private and personal aircraft. These show off the sheer amount of wealth that the powerful Russian leader possesses, and the sheer power that he exercises in his nation. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed watching our video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.